ভজন দেখি গৃহেতে গোলক চরণ সিধু দেখিয়া গঙ্গা সুখনাশী
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So today we are very fortunate to have association of His Holiness Krishna Kshetra Swami Maharaj. I will just like to give a brief introduction about Maharaj. Maharaj is a teacher, writer and traveler and is a disciple of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Maharaj got his first initiation in 1972 and over past 50 years he has served ISKCON in various capacities as a DT Worship Minister, Initiating Guru, member of Shastric Advisory Council, lecturer and more. As a Vaishnava scholar, Maharaj completed his PhD in 2003 at University of Oxford with the study of Vaishnava temple practices and theology. And he has taught the courses on Indian religion and culture at various universities worldwide. Over the years, Maharaj has studied, taught, counseled, and participated in a spiritual community building in more than 40 countries. So today we are very fortunate to have association of Maharaj, and we will be hearing about his pastimes with Srila Prabhupada and some of his interactions with His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami Guru Maharaj. And at last we can have some question answer session. So today we welcome Maharaj by loudly chanting one time Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, and thank you so much, Prabhu, for that very kind welcome. I feel very honored to be with all of you of the Ujjain Yatra. I must say I have never visited Ujjain or the Ujjain temple, but hopefully sometime in the future it may be possible. And I appreciate what you are doing these days, inviting various senior devotees to speak, and in this way to help in the process of, how to say, to adjust to the very shocking departure of Srila Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj. We are all, the whole world, society of devotees is very much in process now of trying to process this departure. So I've been asked to say something about how I became, how I joined the devotees. I was a university dropout, but before that, I met devotees at my university in California, the University of California in Berkeley. I first saw devotees in 1969. They were making kirtan on the street, just next to the main gate area of the university. And for the next 2 years, I would see the devotees every day, because every day without fail, the devotees would be on that particular spot, chanting the holy name, distributing literature. And they would be there for several hours every day, just chanting and more chanting, and always smiling. So one could not avoid to experience the devotees. And I thought it was all very interesting and intriguing. And at the same time, I thought, well, whatever they're doing, I don't really have so much time for it because I'm a student. And so for those 2 years, I think I received 1 or 2 copies of Back to Godhead magazine. And otherwise, I didn't really pursue to connect with the devotees. But you could not avoid to see them and hear them if you were going to the university. Yeah, kind of a long story, but I decided after 2 years I need a break. And the break that I took from study turned out to be a 23-year break. I left America, I went to Europe, and after some months of sort of aimlessness in Europe, I remembered the devotees. And I thought, maybe it's time to find out more closely what these people are all about, because I always could remember how happy they were. And I could understand that This cannot be an artificial happiness. Of course, in those days, especially where I was going to university, various, shall we say, artificial ways of experiencing some temporary happiness were on offer, all kinds of drugs and so on. But I could understand that the devotees, their happiness is not artificial. And so I thought, let me see if I can find devotees here in Europe. In those days, we did not have laptop computers. We did not have internet. We did not have Google. And so to locate devotees was not as easy as it is now. However, one of my first realizations in Krishna consciousness, before even knowing that it was Krishna consciousness, was that when you have a definite desire to connect with devotees, then Krishna will help in wonderful ways. So I reasoned that I had met devotees in a university town in California where I was going to school. Berkeley was a university town. So if devotees are, I didn't even know the word devotee, if the Hare Krishnas are here in Europe, they would be in some university town. And very possibly that university town would be Heidelberg. Heidelberg is a very old university town. So, and it was fairly nearby to where I was staying. So I went to Heidelberg, and within minutes of entering the old city square area, there were the devotees. They were chanting. They didn't have mridanga. There were 3 devotees. They had 1 or maybe 2 pairs of kartals, and they were singing Hare Krishna. So, long story short, I ended up joining them immediately 2 days later. And I was sent by them from Heidelberg to Stuttgart, a nearby city. And within 3 days, the devotees had shaved my head and put on a pink-colored dhoti and took me out on the street to distribute magazines. So this was my quick bhakti program. It was a 3-day bhakti program. And when I first joined them, my idea was I will just stay with these people for 2 or 3 weeks. It will be a good way for me to clear my mind and have a better idea of what to do next. I felt I need to pursue spiritual life, but how to do it? Let me spend 2 or 3 weeks with these people. They're very nice. But after 3 days, I was on the street in a dhoti with a shaved head and a shika. And I was speaking German language on the street. So all the time from the day 1 that I joined, of course, devotees were telling me about Srila Prabhupada, and they were showing me pictures of him. They were of course, showing me books. I began reading. And after 10 days or 2 weeks, the news came that Srila Prabhupada would be coming to Paris in France. And of course, in those days, if Prabhupada was anywhere near, if he was on the same continent, in this case, Europe, everyone would go to see him. And so when the news came, Srila Prabhupada is coming to Paris on such and such date, it was going to be just a few days later, maybe 1 week later, that we would all go. Devotees asked me, so do you want to come? Yes, of course. Why not? On the way to Paris, I met our GBC at that time, the late Hansaduta Prabhu. And on the same day that I met him, he asked me if I would like to be initiated. So I've just been with the devotees about 2 weeks. I'm just hearing, very basics. What is Krishna consciousness? I don't really have much of an idea of anything. I understand there's some vows that you take when you take initiation. And I understand you commit yourself to chant 16 rounds a day, Hare Krishna. Okay, so I was doing that. And when he asked me, do you want to be initiated? I just shrugged my shoulders and said, sure. Which meant that I was included in the initiation rites that were arranged in Paris with Srila Prabhupada. So I joined maybe much later than I could have if I had spent some time with devotees in Berkeley. But there was no delay, so to say. And then from there, I went back to Germany. And the next 23 years, I was based in Germany, traveling, preaching, assorted activities. So that's, okay, that's the story. Somehow I'm still here. I'm trying to be a devotee. By the grace of the Vaishnavas of Srila Prabhupada, I'm still allowed to associate with devotees. And my association with Srila Prabhupada was quite minimal, I must say. I don't have all these many stories of close interaction with Srila Prabhupada that so many devotees have. I was, you could say, one of the foot soldiers of the German Yatra at the time. Srila Prabhupada would come to Europe every year in the summer. He would come, he came in 1972, as I said, to Paris. The next year he came to London. This is when the devotees had just acquired Bhakti Vedanta Manor. And soon after that, Srila Prabhupada came, and he was, we also went from Germany to meet Prabhupada there. It was very sweet to see how pleased Srila Prabhupada was with Bhaktivedanta Manor. And of course, we heard classes from him there. Morning walks. The only morning walk I attended was not in London, it was in Germany. But I'm getting a little ahead. In 1973, in London, at that time, the devotees also had Ratha Yatra in London. And this was with 3 carts. They had a full arrangement with carts for Jagannath, Subhadra, and Baladeva. And by this time already, it had become apparently something of a tradition that on Ratha Yatra, Srila Prabhupada would sit on Subhadra's cart. However, in this case, Srila Prabhupada did not sit on the cart. Srila Prabhupada danced in front of the cart of Subhadra. And we all witnessed, he was dancing with hands raised and with tears in his eyes. And this was just such an incredible experience for all of us, including the police. The police were trying to control the crowd, and they were asking, I think it was Shrutakirti Prabhu, to please have the master, calm down and maybe sit on the cart, and this way it would be easier to control the crowd. But Shrutakirti said, "I'm sorry, officer, it's not possible. I can't tell him what to do." There's a few seconds of this in Yadubar Prabhu's film, Hare Krishna, the mantra, and so on, the mantra and the person who founded the Hare Krishna movement. In that film, you'll see a few seconds of that occasion when Srila Prabhupada danced in Ratha Yatra in London. So that was 1973. In 1974, Srila Prabhupada came to Germany. He came to our main center, by this time recently not purchased, but rented. We had a small, what was called a castle, a Schloss, Schloss Rettershof. And Srila Prabhupada came there and also gave at least one public lecture in the nearby town, I recall. And he gave lectures, of course, in the temple. And my particular memory of his lecturing was an evening lecture on Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 14. Matra sparshastu konteya shitoshna sukha dukkada agama apaino anityas tang sitikshasva bharata. Krishna is telling Arjuna, you need to practice tolerance in the midst of happiness and distress, summer and winter, and so on. This is the beginning of spiritual life. Prabhupada was speaking very strongly from this verse and from this point of tolerance. And we all felt greatly moved, as we always did, from Srila Prabhupada's lecturing, but this time in particular, I felt especially moved. And when Srila Prabhupada invited questions, I felt now or never, I need to ask my spiritual master a question. And so I did. I sort of got up my courage and asked him how to become free from material desire, which he had been speaking about, to transcend and to tolerate and transcend the material body. And Srila Prabhupada liked the question. I say he liked it. I'm confident that he liked the question because he spoke for some time in response to the question. And there was a bit of humor at the end of his response because he was summarizing the point he was making, which was that to become free from material desire, we engage in Krishna's service. And how do we do that? There are so many ways to serve Krishna. We can clean the temple for Krishna, we can cook for Krishna, we can distribute books for Krishna. Like this, he was giving a few examples. And the last of the examples that he gave was, you can drive a car for Krishna. At which point all the devotees laughed because they knew that at that time, this was my service. This was, my main service was to drive. In those days, to have a driver's license was somewhat unusual. And so that was my big qualification to be the driver. But what struck me was that how could Srila Prabhupada know that I'm the temple driver? Certainly no one would have informed Prabhupada, Prabhupada, see this brahmachari over here, he's the temple driver. So what? It's very unlikely that anyone said anything, but it seemed like Prabhupada, he knew that. So I was quite struck. That was, one of many confirmations, you can say, of the very special character of Srila Prabhupada. That was 1974. We met Srila Prabhupada again in 1975 when he again went to Paris for the opening of the temple there. Now, in my memory, it was 1975. Someone has said, no, that was 1976. In any case, we saw him there. And my particular memory there, because the deities Radha Parasishvara were installed, my particular memory was simply watching Srila Prabhupada do the first arati for Radha Parasishvara. How much concentration he showed, as well as devotion. He was clearly reciprocating with Krishna as he was offering the arti items. So I could understand this is not, it's not just ritual. This is a process of serving and interacting with the Lord. So that was something which inspired me also in my service. For some time, 1975, I was a pujari in Germany. Then again later, I became pujari for Nrsingadev in Singhachalam, southeastern Germany. We have this large Nrsinga deity. So for a few years, I was the pujari. That's another subject. Then in Prabhupada came again the next year. There was 1 year which I was not able to go, and that's why I think it was 1975. Yes. I had to stay back as a pujari. Prabhupada came again to Paris. In any case, 1977, as we all know, Srila Prabhupada departed this world in 1977, November. About 2 months before that, Prabhupada expressed a desire to go to Gita Nagari farm he was already in a very, very unhealthy physical condition. His bodily condition was very much deteriorated by this time, but still he was insisting that he wants to go to Gita Nagari because he wants to sit down and show the devotees how to practice what he has been preaching, and in particular, this principle of plain living, high thinking, simple living, and the principles of Varna Ashrama. His journey made a stop in London, and we in Germany were informed. Again, there was no internet, none of this, so we had no idea that Srila Prabhupada would be coming to London until he had already arrived. And then the news came, Srila Prabhupada is in London. How is it possible that Srila Prabhupada is in London? We all knew that Srila Prabhupada's physical condition was not at all for travel, but now he's in London. So we all jumped in cars and we went to London and we met Srila Prabhupada. And I had been traveling with His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj, at that time Brahmachari Ganesham Prabhu, in Eastern Europe with the Library Party program. And it was just from there that we learned Prabhupada is in London. When we came to London, it was reported to Srila Prabhupada that Ganesham is here. And Ganesham, Bhakti Charu Maharaj, had been very much noted by Srila Prabhupada for his incredible success in distributing sets of Srila Prabhupada's books. As they said, placing his books in libraries, in universities. And so when Prabhupada heard Ganesham said, oh, bring him in. He wanted him to come to his room. I was at that time, because I had been his assistant the last 3 weeks, I was invited to join him. So we came in and had darshan of Srila Prabhupada. Altogether, we were 5 devotees with Srila Prabhupada. And he wanted to hear the news of what Ganesham had just been doing in Eastern Europe. So we had just been in East Germany, in the socialist country of Germany, Deutsche Demokratische Republik. This was behind the so-called Iron Curtain. This was hardcore communist territory. Nonetheless, we managed to get in, and we managed to bring 1 banana box full of books and distribute them along with standing orders. So Ganesham used to write a report once a week, which he would send to Srila Prabhupada, and he would send also to His Holiness Satsvarup Das Goswami Maharaj. So there had been no time to send. This time he simply read it out in front of Srila Prabhupada. Within this report, he mentioned some of the scenes, what we would see in East Germany. And one of the things we would see is supermarkets with people standing in line outside the supermarket, waiting for delivery of the very little that was being delivered. Basic supplies. Not much choice of variety of food, hardly any vegetables, devotees living on potatoes and cabbage, basically. And when Prabhupada heard this about how these people are waiting just to get food, tears came to his eyes. And he stopped Ganesham and he spoke and he said, this is how it will be as long as there is godless government. The people will suffer in this way. And the thing that struck me here, from which I feel like I was learning volumes from him, was seeing the tears in his eyes that Prabhupada was feeling for people that he never met and was concerned about their material welfare, not just their spiritual condition. This was very striking to me. While Srila Prabhupada was there in London, also one day we were all staying at Bhaktivedanta Manor. The news got out that Srila Prabhupada was going to be going into central London to have darshan of Shri Shri Radha Landanishvara. So again, we all jumped in different cars and we drove to central London just to be there. It was the Bury Place Temple, just to see Srila Prabhupada seeing Radha Landanishvara. And that was also for me a very significant moment, because there was again this sense that Srila Prabhupada, there's no barrier between Srila Prabhupada and Krishna. When he sees the deity Radha Landanishvara, he's seeing Krishna and he is relating with Krishna. So he just came in, he was carried in his sort of palanquin seat and was simply sitting in front of the deities. And for the first time, I saw him take off the sunglasses, which he had been keeping on all the time because his eyes had become very sensitive to light. Now he took them off and he viewed, it was a double darshan. For us, it was a very special moment. So like that, I received one very brief letter from Srila Prabhupada, which simply encouraged me to, it was after I was initiated, he encouraged me to continue practicing and serving in Germany. He specified stay in Germany and help Hansadutta Prabhu. That was the instruction I received from him at that time. So I took it seriously, and for the next 23 years, I was based in Germany before I was encouraged by senior godbrothers, Hridayananda Goswami, Tamal Krishna Goswami especially, to go back to university to get academic qualification for preaching. About my interactions with His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami, I have to say they were rather minimal, unfortunately. In the 1980s, Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj used to come to Germany. He would come to Europe, and we would have programs. And I always remember that people were so charmed by him. German people are known for being a little bit sort of heavy, the German language is generally considered a rather harsh sounding language. Although when you hear cultured people speak, it's not really like that. But when they would hear Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj speak, they were just so charmed. This was something different for them. So he would spend time. He enjoyed, as you know, he had studied in Germany, in Hamburg. So he had a certain special feeling for Germany. He also especially liked the company of His Holiness Sachinandan Swami Maharaj, my sannyas guru. And yeah, he, of course, later did one of the sort of not impossible, but impossible things. Bhakti Charu Maharaj was one, I believe, who was fully convinced by what Srila Prabhupada said, that the word impossible is a word in a fool's dictionary. When New Mayapur in France was in danger due to its financial situation of being lost. So we all know Bhakti Charu Swami stepped in and made a major fundraising campaign to save New Mayapur. One kind of humorous episode I remember with Bhakti Charu Maharaj in Sweden. I think it must have been some kind of festival we were having there. I don't remember which one it was, I must admit. But it was a good number of devotees, and Srila Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj was also with us. And as you all know, he is a most expert cook. And what I can say I learned from him and appreciated from him, amongst many things, was his spirit of serving the Vaishnavas. When one day he said, "Today I will cook the feast." And he went in the kitchen. A few of us joined him and helped as best we could. And he made pizza. And again, you probably all know he knows very well how to make pizza. But what struck me was one particular ingredient that he included in the pizza. And that was potato chips. Potato chips which were purchased, not made by the devotees, but were purchased. We took he said, "Get potato chips." And so we got bags of potato chips. Said, "Okay, now," he would roll out the pizza dough, and he would say, "Okay, now crumble up the potato chips and spread them on the dough. You can try this." And then came the tomato sauce and the other ingredients. So that's something, that's a cooking lesson I always remember from Srila Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj. And also, at that time, I remember him also explaining to us what is a bona fide Bengali chutney. Again, perhaps you all know, but he said a bona fide Bengali chutney has no chili, only ginger, no chili. Over the years, I would see Bhakti Charu Swami mainly in Mayapur. And in Mayapur, he was ever the gracious host. A few times I would visit him in his quarters. The last time I visited him was for a small gathering, a kind of ceremony related to the ISKCON ministry of cow protection and agriculture, which Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj was very much supportive of. And I wanted to say that for me, I see a bit of a parallel in the last days of Bhakti Charu Maharaj, the fact that he went to Orlando, and I presume he had gone to Dalang, and that his intention was to be in Dalang, this farm project which he had started, which I visited last September, just very briefly for a few hours. In my mind, this is similar, obviously very different circumstances, but similar to Srila Prabhupada's desire to visit Gita Nagari, that he considered it so important to show that, as Prabhupada would so much say, we need to show this example to the world of living not in the cities, but in the country, depending on Krishna's bounty, Krishna's opulence that he provides, living with the cows. So for me, this is the memory I like to keep in my mind of Srila Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj. Hare Krishna. These are a few of my thoughts. I hope this can give you something. If there's any question or any subject you want to discuss, I'm happy to try for a few minutes.
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you very much for such a nice talk. Just one question is there. What message you would like to give us, disciples of His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami Guru Maharaj, who had minimal association of him?
Mhm.
How we can continue to serve, keeping the same inspiration as of being in his physical presence?
Yes. Well, that I can say has been my own situation in relation to Srila Prabhupada. As I said, we saw him only altogether, I may have seen Prabhupada around 15 days. And I believe that was not so much different from how much Srila Prabhupada saw Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur. And so I think we can take Srila Prabhupada's example for this particular situation. As we know, Srila Prabhupada said so many times that he never felt separation from, he always felt the presence of his Guru Maharaj. Even though he did not have so much Vapu association. So I think that is our example. And for myself, it has been very much the association of other devotees, of Srila Prabhupada's disciples, and hearing from devotees who had a lot of association with Srila Prabhupada. That has nourished me. And in a similar way, I would say the same for disciples, followers of Srila Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj. Just make it a point of getting nourished from devotees who have had close association. And of course, you have so many recordings from his lectures. This is also association. From his writing, you have his association. We have to now make a shift. We understand philosophically that, as we've heard from Srila Prabhupada, that there are the two kinds of association. There's Vani and Vapu, and we understand theoretically at least that the Vani is more important. Now we have to take that to heart. Now we have to understand how this is really the case. It is really the case that the Vani is more important, because the Vani, the speaking, the words, is and can always be with us. And how to make the Vani part of ourselves, I would say what is essential is to be thinking, how can I share that Vani with others? And one of the ways to share that Vani with others is, of course, speaking, but another way is writing. And something which I'm trying to encourage devotees to attempt is to write about their realizations, their experience, their reflections in relation to Krishna consciousness. And I'm encouraging that because that's what Srila Prabhupada wanted. Srila Prabhupada said on more than one occasion, all the devotees should write. And one of the special things about writing is it's very challenging. You need to really think clearly when you write, because if you don't, what you write will be not readable. And so it calls for a certain discipline of memory, of taking what it is you hear, what it is you read, and then putting that into your own words. And then making it accessible and attractive for others to read. Yeah, so that's my suggestion.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you. There is one question by Digvijay Prabhu. Digvijay Prabhu, you can unmute yourself and ask the question.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Actually, my question is that actually I have started Krishna consciousness from last 8 years, but actually I have not been initiated till now, and actually I have so much responsibility of Grihastha ashram. So I would like to ask you that can I get initiation, and being as a Grihast, can I serve the Radha Krishna?
Okay. There's certainly no restriction on initiation for Grihastha. Srila Prabhupada himself was initiated as a Grihastha, and our whole tradition is one in which Grihasthas are very much appreciated as preachers. Srila Prabhupada in particular would always point to his householder, his Grihastha disciples, who had been very active in preaching. The three couples, husband-wife couples, who started the temple in London, they were householders. And so there's no restriction in that regard. Now, I also like to remind devotees who may feel some anxiety about becoming initiated, that Srila Prabhupada first met his Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur, in 1922. And it was not until 11 years later that he received initiation. So we should not feel, I spoke about myself, I was initiated after 2 weeks, so that's not a very good example. We should be patient and understand that when the time is right for ourselves, when we have proper, clear understanding also of what is the mission of this ISKCON and how we can be actively a part of it, partake in it, despite our various duties, then Krishna will arrange everything. We will understand who we should take shelter of for initiation. We'll understand that this is, in all cases, connecting us with Guru Parampara, with Srila Prabhupada. Of course, from day one, when we take up Krishna consciousness seriously, Srila Prabhupada said, if you are chanting Hare Krishna mantra, and you are doing this seriously every day, this means you have been accepted by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Which to me suggests Prabhupada is saying in some sense we are already initiated. If we take it seriously, we have accepted chanting the Mahamantra, which is the main sadhana, the main practice of bhakti. So, yes, I hope that helps.
Okay, thank you, Maharaj. There is one question. How can I put more efforts on devotional service and chanting, and how to be concentrated and focused on chanting and devotional service? Because I am not satisfied. I am also reading Prabhupada books too, but is still missing something. I want your guidance, Maharajji. Your insignificant servant, Sahil Sapna.
Prabhu's book. It's on this little table. Okay, I have a very specific answer for this. Lately, I've been, you might say, promoting not my own book. This is a book, little tiny book from my dear godbrother Mahatma Prabhu. He has written this little book called Japa Affirmations. And I'm quite sure it's available in India. Japa Affirmations consists of 20 sentences, and he gives a purport for each of these affirmation sentences. I'll give you 1 or 2 or maybe 3 examples, and you'll get the idea. What is an affirmation? This is a statement which you say to yourself as you are beginning to chant your rounds for the day. So the first one is this: I happily and enthusiastically welcome the holy names every japa session. Now, sometimes we may start our japa thinking, oh, now I have to chant japa, it's my duty, this or that. No, we should have this strong positive feeling. I happily, I enthusiastically welcome the holy name. Not only this time, but every time I sit down to chant. The second affirmation is, I easily chant my prescribed number of rounds with focus and attention. Now, this one you may say, well, I'm sorry, but this is not true for me. I do not easily chant my prescribed number of rounds with focus and attention. The point here is that by saying to ourselves, as if it's true, it can become true. As if it's true, we say it, and by saying it and thinking it, at some point it can become true. The third one is my favorite. When I chant, I chant. In other words, I don't do other things, I simply chant. There are 20 such affirmations in this little book. So this is my recommendation. Get a copy of this and have it with you as you are beginning your japa session. And this will help you develop the kind of attitude that will facilitate the proper realization of the holy name. There is also a much larger book. There are several books now on japa. There is now one by His Holiness Sachinandan Swami Maharaj. What is it called? The waves of the holy name, something like this. The Nectarian, I don't know. There's his book, and there's a book by His Holiness Satsvarup Das Goswami. There are two books. All of these can help in enriching and understanding my primary sadhana, and my primary activity altogether is chanting Hare Krishna. And of course, you pray to your spiritual master that he bless. That's one of these affirmations to understand. This is number 17. I am totally dependent on Guru and Krishna to chant quality japa every day. So to remember that sense of dependency on the Lord and our spiritual master, this can help.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. There is one last question. Can Krishna give me yogic siddhis if I chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra?
I have another question for you. If you get these yogic siddhis from Krishna by chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, what are you going to do with those yogic siddhis? I think this is the real question. Devotees have a siddhi which is even greater than the normal yogic siddhis. Devotees have the siddhi. Siddhi means perfection. To take the full shelter of the Lord, who is Yogeshvara. He is the master of yoga, and therefore he is the master of all siddhis. So the answer is yes. If Krishna wants you to have a certain siddhi for some purpose, which is specifically for his service, he can give you that siddhi. But if you want it for yourself, if you want for some whimsical purpose, then you may be disappointed.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. There is one comment by His Grace Ramananda Rai Prabhu. Thanks. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Guru Maharaj. All glories to Krishna Kshetra Maharaj, who also visit Radha Des, Belgium, for about 1 month every year. We are in anxiety whether we will have the association of Maharaj this year again. Maharaj is a wonderful person, very highly educated, academically very profound scholar. We did several programs with Maharaj in universities in Belgium. Thanks for um arranging such talks, seeking for sincere. It's really wonderful. My sincere gratefulness for that. Your servant Ramananda Rai Das.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Ramananda Roy Prabhu. Nice to see you. Yes, I'm missing Radha Desh. I'm missing Shishi Radha Gopinath. And I want to extend all my condolences to you for departure of your Guru Maharaj.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Anyway.
Maharaj, if I may ask one thing, as disciples, we are also, supposed to preserve the legacy of our Guru Maharaj. Do you know anything about this? Is what is being done on the level of ISKCON? Because it seems such a, here our temple president, he was saying that when the Guru Maharaj at his disappearance day, he seems even more present than ever before. And that's what kind of we felt. It was like huge. So there is so much seems to be done to preserve everything. Do you know perhaps if anything is happening on the level of ISKCON, or what we should think or how we should feel and do about all this? I mean, it seems like really overwhelming.
Well, that's a big topic. I can't point to any specific things. I think there's a general concern throughout our society and specifically among the leaders that how this movement is carrying on into the future, and as you said, preserving the legacy. And we could say this itself was very much foremost in all of the ways, activities, speaking of Srila Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj. He was so much concerned that the legacy of Srila Prabhupada's mission be carried forward in the best of all possible ways. If I think about, this final order of Srila Prabhupada that we should cooperate, I can't think of anyone more than Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj as reminding us of that. In fact, I was maybe 3 years ago, I was asked to participate in a small meeting in which Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj he was the GBC chairman at the time. And there was some issue to be solved. It was quite difficult and complex. So it was a small group of devotees. I think we were 6 devotees altogether. And Bhakti Charu Maharaj was just saying, he was very grave, and he was saying, we have to find a way to cooperate. This was he just kept making that point. We have to find a way to cooperate. Yeah, so on so many different levels, we need to see how to do the needful.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So we are very thankful to you, and we express our heartfelt gratitude for accepting the invitation and to bless us on this most auspicious day of Ananda Ekadashi. And thank you very much for enlightening us. And you told about how you came to Krishna consciousness and various interactions with Srila Prabhupada. Few of them, like how you was a dropout and met the devotees in California University, and later you caught the devotees at Heidelberg University, and you joined within the 2 days after meeting the devotees, and got initiation within the 2 weeks. And you told about that answer to your question about how we can free from material desire. Prabhupada answered we should cook, we should distribute books, and at last he told we can drive a car for Krishna. And you mentioned that how Srila Prabhupada knows everything.
Yes.
And you told about this Radha Parisheshwar DT installation, how you was attracted by the concentration and devotion of Srila Prabhupada while worshipping the deities, and you could able to see it was a direct reciprocation between the Srila Prabhupada and lordships. And then you told about how Srila Prabhupada came to during the last months of his departure, he wanted to go to Gita Nagari, and you related it with how Bhakti Charu Swami Guru Maharaj had the same desire to go to Orlando, D-Land. And you told about your interactions with His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami Guru Maharaj, and how his presentation was so nice that he used to charm even the Germans who are very difficult to who are very hard. And then you told about that how Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj was so much he was one who was fully convinced about Srila Prabhupada's words that a word impossible exists in Fool's dictionary, and you quoted the pastime of this New Mayapur, saving of New Mayapur. You told about humorous event at Sweden, that pizza feast with a special flavor of potato chips, and how he taught Bengali chutney. He taught to make the real Bengali chutney with no chilies, only ginger. And you told about that how just by accepting the day we accept the chanting of the holy name of the Lord uh, means we have been initiated in the parampara of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Thanks, Maharaj, for giving your such a wonderful association. We beg for your blessings so that we can apply and follow these teachings and become a loyal servant of Srila Prabhupada and continue to serve in ISKCON throughout our life. We look forward to have your association at Ujjain also. This is one of the important project of Guru Maharaj. So we seek for your association at Ujjain. Hare Krishna.
Thank
So
you so much. It's
yeah,
been my privilege to be with you. And I do look forward someday to visiting Ujjain and meeting you all there.
yes. So we should express our heartfelt gratitude by loudly chanting one time Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna.
Gaur
Maharaj.
Premanande.
Hare Hare.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Yes.
Srila Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj ki jai. Ujjain Yatra ki jai. Gaur Premanande.
His Holiness Krishna Kshetra Swami Maharaj ki jai.